Professor Pradhan,
Yeah.
it's good to be here with you at your University of Guru Ghazidas Vishwavidyalaya. And we cannot just skip this opportunity to interview you for the Global Forum students. The first question is would be, and this is actually the traditional one, how do you see the perspective, firstly, between South Asia in general, with Central Asia in general, and of course the more particular one is how do you see the perspective cooperation between India and Kazakhstan?
Yeah, Namaste, Professor Akbotaji. And nice talking to you, particularly with regard to the Global Student Forum. And the question you asked is how India Central Asia cooperation or South Asia Central Asia cooperation can be moved forward, or how do you see this cooperation as an opportunity between the two regions to come together is really timely and relevant. Look, for me, we all are migrants. No region is different from the other. Yeah, of course, our faiths, our way of life, our food habits, our regional variations, our geological spaces, they define our day-to-day life, but that doesn't mean that we are different. We all are related. And particularly when it comes to India and Central Asia, there are so much commonality. There is superb historical bonding between the two regions. And religiously also, if you look at Buddhism, even in Islam, both the regions are binded by these two faiths, isn't it? And when you go back to history, in Mahabharata there is a saying that when Lord Arjuna used to go to Uttarakuru. Uttarakuru is the north of Himalayan mountain, particularly the Hima Parvata, to which today we call as Manasarovar, isn't it? Kailas. In Manasarovar Lake, Arjuna in the night used to stay there. In the morning he used to take bath, and in the next day he used to go on an expedition with help of his horse to the Uttarakuru, and the Uttarakuru region constitute your Kashagar and major part of Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan as well. So historically, culturally, we all are connected. Economically also, these regions are not different. The only, I think, major stumbling block between the integration of South Asia and Central Asia is the dispute between India and Pakistan. If India and Pakistan can settle their issues without hustle, and can recognize this region as a special economic zone, isn't it? Or like European Union, we can come up with a greater regionalism where entire South Asia, you have a Central Asia Forum, you have a South Asia Forum. There is a SAARC, there is an SCO. And the beauty of SCO is even the members of SAARC is also there in part of SCO. If these two regions, two regional organizations can take up this initiative and they can come together and eliminate the borders, then probably we can have a free flow of economy, trade, energy, people to people contact, culture, everything. The connectivity issue which we are striving today, particularly when it comes to India, that connectivity issue will also be resolved once Indo-Pakistan border disputes are being resolved. Once, as historically we had a passage of Silk Road through the Gilgit and Baltistan, isn't it? Today also through Kashmir, Kashmir would be the linchpin of connection between India and Central Asia, and that can only be possible when we will able to resolve our political disputes, political disagreements. That is what I generally call that the high politics that is there between India and Pakistan.
So you're saying that economy will flourish,
yeah,
when the political issues will be relieved.
Yes, like in Marxism, we have base determines the superstructure. In foreign policy also, the high politics determines the low politics. High politics means security issues, border issues, sovereignty question. These are high political issues. Once these issues would create a kind of political agreement, countries like Europe when European Union was there, countries had same kind of jingoism and political nationalism. But at the end of the day, they come out of that and entered into an agreement, and now they have a free trade zone. Entire Europe is one, united. Similarly, on that plane, if we can follow European Union and come up with our own initiative, isn't it? that high political agreements will pave way for low political interactions like economy, trade, all these things they will come up later on. So that needs to be done. That means that confidence building measures need to come first. Once we have confidence with each other, once we trust each other, once we rely on each other, then what will happen? The broader regional integration will take place. And that's for sure, if not today, some other date will happen. Once the dispute between India Pakistan is over, once Afghanistan settled down, once Iran doesn't have any problem, even if Iran has its own sorts of problem, but Afghanistan Pakistan is probably the linchpin if South Asia has to do with Central Asia. But Kasaram, the Central Asia South Asia electricity market, is one such example where Central Asia is connected with South Asia. Then we have TAPI, we have IPI pipelines, the Tajik Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, India, Pakistan, Iran pipeline. These pipelines, they became again hostage of petty politics, isn't it? Because of terrorist questions, territorial disputes, because of the terrorism, because of security questions. These pipelines, they became submerged under the carpet. Once these issues, can be resolved.
Can it be taken by our students that the reason why India is not coming fully to the region, by region I mean Central Asia, is the security issues?
No, it's not security issues, it is connectivity issue. Look, like you, we also love Central Asia and we want to connect with Central Asia. Look, there is a saying, if you look at the concentric circles of foreign policy of Kautilya, there is a well mention of it that any country who wants to be a powerful country in world politics needs to keep the region under its orbit, needs to keep the region along with it, if not under the orbit. And India, which believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, never wants to keep any country under its orbit, but wants to have a co-equal partnership with all the countries. And going on that line, we love our neighbors. We do not have any problem with the neighbors. But partition has created a background because of which this Pakistan-Bangladesh problems are there. But beyond Pakistan and Bangladesh, we do not have any problems with Central Asia. If you look at Central Asia, China question as well. The Central Asian countries, they have, given away a lot many territories to China to resolve the issue. But in case of India, this is not possible because India is already a huge country. So for China, it's not possible to take that discount from India. Therefore, we have a border kind of disagreements between India and China. But when in the context of Central Asia, we do not share border with each other. So we do not have any border question. Therefore, security question doesn't arise. Secondly, India is a strong, formidable democracy, which Central Asia imbibes the democratic ethos from our country. Thirdly, if you look at the political Islam in Central Asia, which is quite secular, they do not believe in any kind of fundamentalist attitude. They do not believe in jingoism, isn't it? And they love India. Therefore, for India and Central Asia, entering into cooperation in any aspect, in any domain, is never a question which is surrounded by security. However, connectivity is a question because we have to either go to Pakistan, which is time being not possible. Therefore, I was betting in the very first question that political issues need to be resolved, isn't it? Afghanistan case, it's politically unstable, isn't it? Even Taliban 2 has come up and it looks more, formal than the Taliban 1. But yet, there are certain questions which need to be addressed. And through Iran, then the US sanction question comes up. Even though we have, heavily invested in Chabahar port, but we couldn't, forward it further because of the US questions. And the US
sanctions. You cannot invest more than a certain amount yearly.
Yeah, if you invest, you will be subjected to sanctions.
Yeah, and just compare it to the investment which China did already and doing still in Pakistan.
And importantly, in the northern hemisphere, if you go through Himalaya, Karakoram mountain, which used to be the ancient silk and spice route. Today it's not possible because China won't allow us to have direct access to Central Asia. Once China allows India to have direct access to Central Asia through its territory, the Chinese hegemony, the Chinese dominance in Central Asia will be over. Because Central Asia will have access to, non-Chinese goods and services. Until now what happened? Because of landlockedness of Central Asia, China is enjoying the hegemony. given Russia's lack of economic capability, and Russia is no longer economically that powerful that it can invest in Central Asia. So China now has the opportunity to invest there heavily. But if once India enters into that market, then China will have a competitor, and Central Asia will have choices before them to choose whether they want this good or that good, isn't it? And in the process, what will happen? The hegemony, that single-minded dominance of China will come to an end. That's the reason China doesn't even want that India-Pakistan problem to be resolved, isn't it? In that case also, India will have access to Central Asia. China doesn't want Afghanistan and India to be close. China doesn't want Iran and India to have partnership through which India can enter into Central Asia. And China never wants its territory to be allowed for India for any kind of transit. So that creates a kind of question for India how to enter into Central Asia. Right. Even though we want to enter into Central Asia, the only option left with us is by air. And trade and transportation, as you know better than me, it's not possible by air. We need to have land connectivity. That is where I think India is lagging behind. Many people, those who say that India is a day late and dollar short, I do not agree with them. The only problem with us is that we do not have a direct contact with Central Asia. And there is a Pakistan, there is a China, there is an Afghanistan, which blocks India's entry into Central Asia. And if we can overcome those connectivity issues, then I'm sure India and Central Asia will have a honeymoon period.
There is one more question that I cannot skip since it just happened a couple of days back, the terrorist attack in Kashmir.
Yeah.
And India already imposed some of the measures.
Yes.
What are those measures and how they will impact in the security agenda of the region? By region here, we mean of course South Asia.
Yeah, look, recently the dastardly attack that took place against the civilians in Kashmir, particularly the tourists, those who have went there to enjoy, because it's a hot summer throughout India and Kashmir is having a kind of winter condition.
Beautiful weather.
So people, they want to visit that land, and we generally believe Kashmir is the heaven on earth. So therefore we go there for a kind of visit, isn't it? Throughout the year they go, but this time of the year the tourist number is even more, because in the rest of India you have a hot summer, isn't it? And what happened, the way mindlessly 27 people were killed and many others were injured. And in fact, what irony comes, when we are creating a cosmopolitan society, in that time also people are being targeted by asking their identity in terms of religion. That was again a kind of irony. If you look at today, Kashmir Bandh was called yesterday because of this, because people were mercilessly killed. That means, look, if you have the gut to fight against the army, fight against the people, those who are like you, those who are armed, but killing the unarmed people, women and kids, is cowardice, and that is not acceptable in any protocol of human rights anywhere on earth. Therefore, what India did, when the initial investigation found out that two Pakistani terrorists were also involved in it, and as a measure what India did, it taken certain diplomatic decisions. Since India is now being called as a peace negotiator of the world, whether it is Russia-Ukraine war, whether it is Palestine-Israel war, in all these things, or even Chinese threatened to Taiwan, India's mediation has been called for. Since India is mediating and called itself as a peace negotiator, it cannot wage a war. And whatever I believe is a politically mature decision by the government of India to take some diplomatic measures. And this diplomatic measures you may call as a diplomatic masterstroke as well. Particularly the Indus Water Treaty, which was signed in 1960 between India and Pakistan, where India has, on humanitarian ground, provided 80% of Indus water to Pakistan. It's probably the most humanitarian treaty anywhere on earth. Even though two neighbors, they do not go well with each other, but India has allowed 80% of its water to flow into Pakistan, isn't it? And many a time India has also thought of to revise it, but again on humanitarian ground they allowed it. But since the terrorists, particularly Lashkar-e-Taiba and the resistance front who created this violence, this menace, isn't it, and are operated from Pakistan, therefore India has thought that this treaty now will be revoked. Yesterday they have revoked that treaty. Now that much amount of water will not be flowing into Pakistan. So what will happen? The Punjab province of Pakistan will suffer from lack of water, and its agriculture will be again challenged due to lack of water, water supply. Similarly, India has taken, there was a SARC visa. Countries, those who are members of South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, they had a visa facility which Pakistanis were enjoying. And now India has revoked
Can
it.
you just explain more of this for the students?
Yeah.
Because we assume that as India and Pakistan are in quite difficult diplomatic and political situation still, then we assume that Pakistanis cannot travel to India, Indians cannot travel to Pakistan.
No, they can travel. Actually, they cannot directly come from their territory to our territory via UAE, via Saudi Arab, via UK, via USA, via China. They can come into our
That
territory.
flight is no more there, Lahore, Delhi.
Yeah, direct flight connections were disconnected because of the Uri and others thing. I mean to say
Back in 2019, right?
when Pulwama attack took place, na, because of that this thing has been cancelled. Otherwise, it was also there. But fact of the matter now, Pakistanis can come to India by a different route. Even by a land route, they are coming nowadays. Due to then the relations were relaxed a bit. But now, those things were also completely stopped. And Indian government has given a 48 hours deadline for all Pakistani citizens in India to go back. Okay. And those who are enjoying SARC visas, they were given a time of 1 week. Within 1 week, they have to leave. Apart from that, the third condition India put forth is that the security personnel that are there in Indian embassy in Islamabad and Pakistani embassy in New Delhi, they need to go now. The security personnel from Army, Air Force and Navy, whoever are there, that military attaché person will have to go. Isn't it? And they were declared as person non grata. In addition to that, what the government has said, the personnel that is there of 55 numbers will now be reduced to 30 in both the high commissions. In India and also in Pakistan, they will be reduced to 30. You need not to have this much of numbers.
So Pakistani diplomats will return, Indian diplomats will simultaneously return.
Yeah. And the Attari border, which is the connecting link between India and Pakistan, that has been closed now. Am I right? Now you cannot have a direct visit to Attari, isn't it? These were the major mechanisms that the government of India has taken as a countermeasure until Pakistan follows the route and comes to the deciding table. And this has been done only to make sure that Pakistan do not allow its territory to be operated by the terrorists and perpetrate violence in India. And I do not know why Pakistan doesn't understand. If whatever happening in Balochistan, it can blame to Afghanistan. So whatever happening in Kashmir, India will certainly blame to Pakistan. So that you cannot have a double standard for you. Whatever happening in Balochistan, you blame Afghanistan and India. And whatever happening in Kashmir, you are telling that they are internal terrorists. Even when the I cards and the peoples were found of Pakistani origin, how can you claim that you do not have a hand? You are perpetrating violence. So that shouldn't be done. So my submission is that if Pakistan wants to live in peace with India, they need to come on a deciding table, because India has a history of not invading any country, not waging any war against any country, not perpetrating any kind of violence against any country, not indulging in the internal matters of any other country. It's high time, if a good sense of wisdom prevails, and Pakistan decides, no, let's stop everything, let's live peacefully, isn't it? With whatever territory we have, with whatever territory they have, isn't it? If they can discuss, isn't it? I am sure peace will prevail, and we will have a solid regional integration in the region. And once this region will emerge out of it, this will be an example for other regions to follow peace.
Yeah, although I can listen to you for hours and hours, I don't want to exhaust you. But there is a last question. How do you see the academic cooperation between India and Central Asia? Since we just witnessed that beautiful conference dedicated to Central Asia, when you were stating and taking all the steps so that it will come from the symbolism to the substance to the fact.
Look, academic collaboration between both the region is highly necessary. Even though academic collaborations are there, but they are not large in number. like the Chinese have, like the Russians have. So particularly India need to work on this front. So also Central Asia. Many times what happen, academic collaboration that we talk about, they remain limited to capital, isn't it? I visited from Delhi to Astana. Somebody from Astana visited Delhi, isn't it? We believe that academic collaboration is lot, like that.
How many Kazakhstani scholars went to the south of India?
Hardly few.
Hardly.
Or
How
may
many?
not be, zero.
How many universities in the south of India are studying Central Asia?
Central Asia, hardly few.
University of Balasore and University of Bilaspur
That's-
is Central Asia. It's not even a South Asia.
Yeah, we don't have any student there. The fact of them, that's what I am telling you. That academic collaboration needs to be strengthened further. People need to come together, isn't it? Then only what will happen. Look, you visited our place. You stayed here for a week. Now you realize that it's a beautiful place to live in, isn't it? And I'm sure you will visit here again and again, isn't it? Because you never felt that you were different. You
No,
never
never.
felt that you came from a foreign land. You felt like that you were in your second home, isn't it?
Well,
and when I went to your place, I also felt like that I am not a foreigner because you cook food for me. I went to your home. I ate there. You take every care of me. So the point is, we all are friend of each other. We do not have any differences. The only problem is that we do not try to know each other. We do not study each other's culture. The beauty of you is that apart from having an Islamic background, the way you have studied Indian culture, the way you tried to know every bit of Indian culture, that brought you closer to India. But in our case, what we do?
but more we
lost the language
study.
only for degree.
Yeah, more we study, more we understand how,
Yeah, that's
like, the traditional societies are alike.
That's right. But how it will come? Only when we study. But whatever language we learn for certificate case only. Whenever you visit that country, we know that only, Dubre Utro, Dubre then Dasvidania.
It's not even Kazakh, it's not even Uzbek, it's not even
Russian,
Kyrgyz. Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So in that case, what happened? So we remove ourselves from that society, isn't it? Even if we visit it, more than twice, thrice, even 10 times, but we are not attached to that society because we never try to understand that society. We never try to learn their culture. We never try to learn their language. Therefore, academic collaborations are highly required. And just not academic collaborations. We need to have a kind of exchange with each other, isn't it? That means you people coming to our country to teach our student for months and months. Our people going there to teach the student for months and months. Your student coming to our institutions, our student going to you in your institution. Joint degrees and twinning programs, that will help to have a solid educational cooperation between you and us. I am sure in pharmaceutical sector, Indian students are going to your place to study medical. But how many of your students come here to study engineering and medical? That has to be seen as well. If that can be done, if the government can promote that, isn't it? Then I believe again both the societies will come closer and there will be further, stronger cooperation between both the
Right. Actually, you reminded me that when at one point of time when we invited an Indian scholar to teach at our faculty for 5 years, it was very challenging because there were some opinions. Why you want Indian scholar? Why don't you go to the United States, Europe? Why India? And then the answer was, well, we need Indian scholar to understand the region. Yeah.
Even if you go to Europe and America now, the teachers who teach there are Indians. Many a time I tell my students, why are you going to America? Because even in America, whether you go to, Cornell, you go to Washington University, you go to Arizona State University, or you go to Harvard and Stanford, who will teach you? The Indian teachers only. The best way is to study here, isn't it? Indians are academically very sound. We need to accept it. Okay. The problem with us is, like, the colonial masters, they are imposing that our worldview is the worldview of all, isn't it? Those who study English literature or those who study English medium of, philosophy, they believe that everything comes from the West. But tell me, my dear friend, the Western civilization evolved only around 15th century AD, whereas the Indian civilization is 10,000 years old. 10,000. When the world doesn't know the idea of university, we produced Taxila around 700 before Christ, Nalanda around 400 before Christ, And do you know the model university came in Italy called Bologna University only in 1080 AD. Then tell me who is philosophically strong and who is better educated than the rest.
Orissa, Sabudana Bala.
Yeah.
Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank
One more quote. Chhattisgarhia, Sable Variya.
Sable बढ़िया, छत्तीसगढ़िया सबले बढ़िया.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.